Okay.
All right, Beth, I will hand it off to you. We'll get started.
Great, thanks Alex, thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is Beth Reichel and I work for PixelRiver in the sales department. And we're gonna touch on 3 different areas. The first area we're gonna touch on is efficiency and managing your data. And some questions you wanna ask yourself is, do you know what disaster recovery is? Also something you wanna ask yourself is, do you have a disaster recovery plan in place? One of the areas we do specialize in is actually managing your data for you. We'll touch on the next area, which is minimizing and mitigating loss. Certain things you want to think about is, has your company ever lost any data? If so, how quickly were you able to recover that data? The next item we're going to touch on is protection from downtime. If your company has ever been down, how long was your data down for? How long is your company able to survive being down from your system? And how much does it cost your company to be down
For extended periods.
for an extended period of time? These are all areas that PixelRiver specializes in order to keep your company up and running. I'm going to turn it over to John Killcommons. He is the CEO and owner of PixelRiver Technology.
So we kind of skipped the slide back here, but I'm going to just jump back to it. And basically, it's important for me to educate my customers, and I want to make sure that you guys are aware. And let me come in frame. From today, I want you guys to learn basically 6 items. I want you to know what the difference is between when we talk about business continuity versus disaster recovery and backup. And what's the big difference? I mean, most of it's financially related. But from a business perspective, if you don't understand the differences, you may think you have your business set up for business continuity, but then when we go through the definitions, you're like, hey, wait a minute, that's not exactly what I'm doing. So I think it's important to educate you on those aspects. And then how most businesses back up, because some people think they're doing a great job backing up, and they're really not, and what they need to be afraid of. And some people, you should be very afraid, because I would say 90% of the customers I talk to, no one's really doing it as well as they could. And when they realize how simple it is to correct it or use a product like Veem, it's like, you know what, I should have done this months ago, because it's going to make my life easier. I'm going to rest at night. I'm going to have the security that everything is backed up and being watched and monitored. And what do you need to have in place? I mean, some businesses, 1 day recovery is okay, 2 days recovery is okay. Some businesses like, hey, you know what? I need to be able to recover in 10 minutes. So we'll talk a little bit about that. How to completely automate your backup system. And that goes down to actually testing the backups every day to make sure they actually recover. So we can run tools within Veem that allow us to actually recover, do a test before we pack up that backup for the night. So we have 100% confidence that you call me 5 minutes after that test is completed, I know for a fact that it's going to recover, because we're doing that all the time. And last thing is, how do you know with 100% certainty that your information is safe and available when you need it later on? So I'm just going to jump forward because I personally like this video.
What if there was a way to simplify your office technology that could completely eliminate the need to ever purchase and maintain expensive, complex equipment ever again? What would it be like if you could just pay for the technology you used each and every month and freed your employees to work from anywhere on any device? Imagine never having to worry about a fire, flood, or natural disaster destroying your critical business data or disrupting your ability to work. Imagine never having to purchase another server or endure an expensive network upgrade ever again. Well, imagine no more. With cloud computing, millions of businesses are trading in their old on-site computer networks for the simplicity, lower costs, and flexibility of the cloud. Moving from your on-site server to the cloud is a lot like the change businesses made in the 1800s with electricity. Businesses had to build their own generators to power their factories. This was expensive and time-consuming, but it was their only option. But then utilities came along, and businesses no longer had to incur the cost or lost time of generating their own power. All they had to do was plug in, and business was running. The same revolution is happening now with cloud computing. While once you were forced to maintain your own server on site, now you can just plug into the internet and everything's there. No need for a server or a huge IT department. That means the cost of the software, hardware, installation, and maintenance go away, saving you big. And because all applications and data are stored on a supercomputer in the cloud, you can use inexpensive devices and basic workstations for employees, cutting more costs and allowing you to access email and files from anywhere on any device. For a fraction of the cost, we can deliver cloud services as a total solution that includes applications, services, backup, security, and support. Or a la carte, delivering only the services you need or want. Plus, you only have to pay for what you use. Spin it up or down based on your business's needs. And the great thing is, it doesn't need to be all or nothing. We can easily take pieces of your network like email, your data backup, or a file server and put it in the cloud to save you money and give you greater flexibility while maintaining other pieces of your network on site. And since we're a local business, if anything does go wrong, you'll get fast, friendly service from real people you know, instead of dealing with nameless faces and call centers thousands of miles away. With cloud computing, there is no one-size-fits-all. If you're interested in seeing if the cloud is right for you, we can help with a free, no pressure, no obligation cloud readiness assessment.
I guess I needed to wait a little longer on that, but all right, let me go back to our presentation. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jacob to talk about his fine product, which we're using in-house for all our medical customers currently. And we're using it across our 3 data centers to actively restore customers as required. And we're also doing an on-site solution for customers and then backing them up to the cloud. All right, it's all yours, Jacob.
Thank you, John. So first, what is Veem? Veem is modern data protection built for virtualization. So all we focus on is the virtual aspect. We don't do anything physical. We put all our efforts into virtual. Our slogan is, it just works, as we get from customers constantly, and it's the truth. It's nice to have a solution that you can install. Everything works. There's no issues. So just to give you a quick background, Veem was founded in 2006. We released our first backup solution in 2008. In that time, we built up a name in the community with a free solution called Fast SCP. So that kind of got the name out there. Once we hit in 2008, we just took off. We've been the most innovative company in our class from past to present. We've had some features that other companies are still trying to catch up to. We've had those 3 years ago. So all that has accumulated to us having over 90,000 customers. We are looking to hit the 100,000 customer mark by the end of April. So it's a short time, a lot of customer base. It just goes, the name's out there. It's proven. If you want to hit that next slide, John. A little bit delay in here. All right. So with Veem, we want to focus on what we call the 3C problem, being capabilities, complexity, and cost. Capabilities were powerful. The name Veem used to be associated with the SMB market, small environments. That's not the case. We have many enterprise-level accounts with sockets ranging from one socket environments, one host, up to thousands of sockets. So it's definitely enterprise scalable. With the power and the features that we have, and also the flexibility, allows our customers to meet our RPOs, RTOs faster, especially because the big thing is we are agentless. So Veem does not require agents for backup, restores, any applications, agentless across the board. So I'll get into later what that equates to is a lower total cost of ownership. Okay, we still have all those features packed in. With the issue of complexity, Veem is easy to use. We hear all the time that our interface is simple. All the features are there. You can have Veem installed in your environment, up and running, as little as 20 minutes if you're looking to put a trial in there, before we can even tell you about the product. So that's how easy it is to have installed. Saves on time, eliminate risk, because it does work, and it's proven. Cost, the last problem. Like I mentioned, lower total cost of ownership. So we can do that because we're agentless, less downtime, because Veeam's flexible features like instant VM recovery, it'll allow you to actually spin up VM straight from the backup file as little as 2 minutes. So we're not talking, 2 hours downtime possibly to spin up an entire VM with all the applications and all that stuff. It's quick. And what it says up in the little monitor in the top right, put us in the lab, that's kind of, we go off like the Pepsi challenge. So we want our customers to test the product. That's the only way you're going to really see in your environment that the product works. So you could have, I could tell you Veeam's the best, another rep from another manufacturer could tell you they're the best. You're never going to know until you put it in the environment. And a nice thing about Veeam is we're licensed per CPU socket, so you don't have to worry about how much data you're backing up or how many VMs you have. The one price is just per socket. Other than that, there's an annual renewal, 20% of the license cost, but lower total cost of ownership. Do you want to hit that next slide, John?
Okay.
All right. So what you've heard about Veeam, backup version 7, we just released in August 2013. We've had initial vCloud Director integration. We upped it in version 7, allowing you to restore back to the original location. That was a feature that was missing from 6.5. Archive the tape was something that we've been asked for a couple years now. We finally got it, so that is on the board there. And I do want to mention, because Veeam is virtualized, we only back up to a disk-based target, so we're storage agnostic. It does have to go to disk first before we can back up to tape or to the cloud, but we are able to do both. Veeam Explorer for Microsoft SharePoint and also Exchange is mentioned lower. This is a great feature that allows us to go into these applications still agentless and restore an individual email, individual item, vCard, etc., without having to restore the entire application and rebuild it from scratch. We're talking seconds for these restores. Already mentioned instant VM recovery, HP integration. I do want to mention because with their storage being 3PAR left hand, we actually can back up from their SAN snapshots, making the backups 10 times faster. So you could have multiple backup and restore points per day. Sure backup, sure replica. The last one on the list. This one we get from customers I've actually heard helps them sleep at night. So what this is backup and replica verification. Once a backup or replica job is run in Veeam, it's automatically going to send that backup or replica over to our virtual lab, virtual test site, run it, spin it up, make sure that it's good to go. It's going to send the end user an email notification letting them know this backup, this replica is good to restore when you need it. So you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to manually test these backups every time you run it. So it's just a few of the features that we mentioned. We can get into more detail at a later time. So you want to hit that next slide, John?
Yep, done.
Oh, perfect. So this is just to show the name recognition and how strong Veeam is in the marketplace at this point. Been included in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for the first time they've had virtualization software manufacturers in here. In the lower right under Visionaries, like I mentioned, Veeam started in 2008, so it's not a long time. We're getting over 100,000 customers named into Gartner's Magic Quadrant. We're really getting into the enterprise field as more and more customers are seeing that Veeam's not just for small markets anymore. That's all I have on that.
Awesome. All right, thank you. So I'm going to get into...
No problem.
That was awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny you talked about the replica stuff last, because I do sleep better at night knowing that I can verify that my backups have been recovered, tested, and then put back into a safe state. At the end of the day, it's all about, have you lost data? I mean, I run into customers all the time and tell me they don't, or they've never lost data. And then I ask them how they're backing their data up, and they never give me a clear answer. And I'm like, well, if you don't know what data you're backing up, or the data is not that important because you're a smaller business and you don't have a plan in place, then you probably have lost data. You just either spend the time to recreate it, or you go through the process again, in terms of where's that presentation I did, 5 months ago, I can't find it, I'll just rebuild it. So, it's interesting that some people don't think they've lost data. And then you get the other side where you run into a business where they're like, we're down for 3 days because my IT group that I was using at the time took that long just to do a bare metal restore on the data. So not only did I lose the data between the last backup and the time the server went down that was entered into the system, I lost 3 more days to get the system back up. And then I had to manually enter the data from their last backup to get me current. And I've had customers tell me they've lost $100,000. I've had other customers tell me that they've lost $6,000 a day because they had to hire 2 people just to do that, and then plus the loss of activity in their own business. So it is important, and pretty much everybody I've talked to at the end of the day when we finish the conversation, because I'm the sales guy, they've lost data, they just didn't realize it. And it can drive you nuts, because you have to redo your activities. My big thing is a lot of people confuse what is business continuity, disaster recovery, and backups. And it's pretty simple. Business continuity is a full-out plan, so you can recover not just part of your business, all of your electronic data in a sequence that allows your business to successfully go back online. So if you have a Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Katrina come through your part of the country, you know that you can recover in a different part of the country the next day. And that would include everything down to your phones. Can you move your phones to a new location in the country overnight? Can you move your data? Can I spin up those VMs? How much data between the last recovery and the event will I lose? And that's all part of disaster business continuity planning. Disaster recovery is the actual plan. How is it executed? And then some people think that backups, meaning I take the folders and files out of my documents directory, is adequate for a disaster recovery or business continuity. And at the end of the day, when they have the event, they find out not even close. So one of the things we do spend a decent amount of time is explaining to customers what are these different definitions and how do they impact our business. Because it's more than just an IT discussion. It's about how your business recovers and how you would like it to recover as a non-technical person. My technical folks and myself will help you get through the technical discussion, but you have to decide, hey, you know what, I'm a pizza parlor. I'm okay if my computers go down for 2 days, but I have no tolerance for my inbound telephone numbers. Or I'm a hospital. I have no choice. I need that data tomorrow. Now, we happen to specialize in the healthcare market for backup and recovery. That's what we do. We've been doing it for the last, since 2005 when I founded the company, and I have probably another 20 years of building out another company called MedWeb, which does distributed telemedicine. So I'm very familiar with that space, and all I'm doing is leveraging that for the common business. So I'm bringing those skill sets for being HIPAA compliant, being CPI compliant to the standard business so that they can take advantage of having a business continuity plan that really addresses their needs. Because when I walk into business, this is what I find. Some people don't do backups. Some people put it on a CD or a thumb drive and they find that to be acceptable. Other businesses actually get a little more sophisticated. They'll place it on tape, but they generally don't test the tapes or they don't replace the tapes. As you go up the scale, people will place it onto a SAN and they may do an offsite recovery. But there's, if you do a recovery at midnight and that gets replicated by 6 a.m. and then you have an event at 3 in the afternoon, you've lost the whole business day. And then really the best solution out there is basically having a local copy for fast recovery and restore locally, and then having one offsite so that you can actually bring your business up. With Veeam, we actually have something a little bit cooler in that I can have systems running on-premise on virtual systems in your premise so that you have your complete data control, and then I can spin them up in one or more data centers. So if your business is that important that you want to have a fast recovery locally, you'd like to have a cloud copy of the data in one data center and a recovery copy in a different data center, so you have 3 sets of backups, you can do that, and we can actually notify you that you actually have all 3 backups in place. And they've been tested and verified using the Shore tools from Veem. So the next couple slides I put in there so you guys can look at it and say, these are the pros. I mean, CD or thumb drives are very expensive. You don't need a lot of technical experience. But if you have your whole company on a thumb drive in your pocket and you're at the pool and you fall in the water, I mean, that's the end of that recovery. So, or you leave it at a friend's house and you forget where you actually put your data, you have kind of a combined issue there. 1, you can't recover from it. 2, all your company data is in someone's house. Tapes can store a lot more data. They're much more expensive. Generally, I haven't seen many implementations done successfully on premise because a lot of the software out there is very cumbersome. And not that those products are poor, it's just they're antiquated. They're not thinking forward of how businesses need to react and recover. Plus, if you leave the tapes on your premise and you have a fire or you have a hurricane or you have a flood, they're not going to do you a lot of good. So you really need to get the data offsite. And some companies spend a lot of money to put it in Iron Mountain and some of this other stuff, and that's all well and good, and we do that too for certain customers. But you should have no expectation that that is going to be a recovery point, meaning it may take a day for you to get that data back. So be reasonable about how you handle those things. And it's expensive as well. The NAS system is very nice. It's nice and fast. Again, it's drives, so drives do fail, and we'll get into a little bit of the failure rates in a little bit. So it's a better solution. It does provide an offsite backup only. It's not a real recovery though. It's not what's the plan. It's just placing the data in a different location. And really, a NAS with an offsite backup recovery solution is probably the best solution I've seen out there up until Veem, where people can move their data, take a bare metal restore, put it onto the NAS, migrate it to multiple locations. It worked really well, and we did this for years. Now with Veem, I can take it a step further. 1, I can virtualize on-premise. So if you have a hardware failure on-premise, my restore point is basically a clean VMware server, which we can have one in stock and deliver in hours, or you could have one on site for active backup right there and recovery. And then I reinstall from the virtual images. So with VMware and Veeam, I get the independence of hardware. So I don't have to buy the same make, model, and CPU because that's what that software could run on. Now I virtualize all those components. And I haven't run into a software today that I can't virtualize. I've had some trouble with some, but in general, I've been able to virtualize 100% of the servers I've worked with. The ones that I've had a problem with is because they have a special card or accelerator that they need for math calculations. And in those cases, we've done a few different things, but for the client, for this discussion, I'm not going to get into it. We could definitely talk offline. At the end of the day, disasters happen. What kind of disasters? I mean, 44% of the failures out there that, according to the downtime survey results, is hardware related. Hard drive fails, power surge from a lightning storm. 23% are from human error. They accidentally deleted a file, they took that presentation and they did something to corrupt it. And it's not on purpose, it just happens. Or maybe someone steals your laptop and then you lost all the data on your laptop. Software corruption is a big culprit, especially when you get into databases and stuff. And only 3% is actually natural disasters. And that's, I find it interesting that most of my calls for backup recovery occur after natural disasters because people realize how exposed they are. But, 97% of the other events have nothing to do with natural disaster. So it's really important to take a look at it and say, hey, you know what? What's my plan? And at least take a look at it, and we'll help you take a look at it and tell you the different options. Because at the end of the day, some people can afford to do it and some people can't. But at the end of the day, every business that, if they want to stay in business, are definitely going to do it. So overall average, the failure rate of disk or tape is basically 99%. Every piece of hardware is going to fail at some point. So you have to have multiple copies. That's pretty much what that's saying. So, you know, I go through some case studies in terms of these two scenarios. One is basically a computer was stolen twice, and they basically lost $25,000. The other client, their server was hacked, and it could be through email, it could be from one of your end users clicking on a link and getting into a shared drive. But, backing up from a hack where they decide to use your server as the new source for all spam in the world, cost this business $15,000 and 3 days of downtime. So just the recovery cost $15,000. Plus they lost 3 days of operations. The numbers get staggering. You need to have some type of fast recovery in place. So, it's a 4-step process. You need to build out a plan, you have to back up, and you have to monitor and test. And this is where I found that Veeam does one of the best jobs in making sure that a backup recovery is actually good. And at the end of the day, I can back up all your stuff all day long, but if I never look at it or never check it, when you need it and it doesn't work, it's not very helpful. So we do actively protect your data. That's our job. There's basically different continuums of how this works. We have the bare metal restore, or what I call an active restore. And with Veeam, I can spin up a system and virtualize it within minutes. So if you have an on-site system that we're virtual, that is virtual, and we're using Veeam, I don't even have to go to your premise. I can start a new system up in the data center within minutes, and you could be back online from your last recovery point. If you're on premise, I can recover within minutes on the same VMware server, assuming it's not a hardware-related issue. Or you lost that important email in your email exchange on premise, we can actually recover that file within Veeam. So we have moved all our business over to Veeam because we find it to be the next generation of backup recovery, and because it's fast and efficient and it's easy to use. Because at the end of the day, if I teach you how to recover, you don't have to call me, which makes it more cost effective for you. And when you need my specialties, I'm right there. I'm right there to support you. So you want to eliminate the risk and the hassle of tape, and finally and forever get a fail-safe backup system. And that's what we're offering here. It is a continuous backup system. And some of those features aren't within Veeam. And we use a few products to accomplish that. Veeam is definitely our snapshot of choice. And we're really looking forward for them to do equal logic arrays, because that's my favorite array, but that's a whole different issue. So this just kind of goes through some of, if you virtualized it, how we can recover the email from an on-site NAS or network attached storage device, just so people know what that is. And then how we get it off-site. We do have a East Coast and West Coast facility, so that you can actually back that up. Personally, these are some of the comments from our fantastic customer base. I talk about it in the slides, but it always helps people to actually see the cost of data loss and downtime. And basically, on average, it's $8,000 per day to lose any type of business. You lose about $8,000 per day. For 12 months, and you go down for a few days, that's $2 million a year that you could have in lost revenue. It's not, and it's very simple to do, and it's not $8,000 a month to backup recover. It could come as cheap as a couple $100 a month. It's the peace of mind. So it takes 19 days and $17,000 to retype 20 megabytes of sales data. So this just kind of goes through some of the components. And I think the last two slides kind of hit it on the head for people. 60% of companies that lose data close down within 6 months of the disaster because they weren't prepared for it. So, you guys spend a lot of time building up your companies, and doing a great job marketing and sending the business out, but then you don't actually spend the time or effort to back up. What's sad, the last 40%, 72% of those companies go within 24 months because of that loss of data. So, that's staggering that even though 40% are able to keep their doors open past 6 months, 72% of that 40% can't keep their doors open after the 24 months because it was such an impact to their business. I give a couple more client success stories because it's always good to do these things. But basically, hard drive on their mail server, from our perspective, if we virtualize it, any subsystem that fails in a hardware system, we can recover within minutes with Veem and having the right systems in place. At most, a 2-hour downtime would be large. Like most of the stuff we do is remote. If we need to go on site, we don't charge for it if you're part of the service, which is nice. So let me just go back to that last slide for a second. So the other client, they wanted to upgrade their servers. With Veeam and using VMware, I can upgrade servers overnight. I can walk in with a new server now, move the systems over, boot them up, and they're back online within an hour. So that's the other nice part. By virtualizing, we basically can replace hardware before it fails, so you never actually experience downtime. 2, if your plant is growing and your company is growing, we can upgrade you with no impact to your business, which is fantastic. So we do come back with a 100% guarantee on your data backups. I think it's important to back my product up with not only word, but actual actions. So I wanted to thank you guys for your time today. And then if you have any questions or comments, we have a whole list of people you can reach out to, and one of us will get back to you. All right, Alex?
So I'm looking, we'll stay for another minute for any last minute questions. On the live chat, I've attached our 10 reasons to choose Veem, along with some highlights of the version 7 from Veem. So you can find those on the live chat. We'll also be sending out a recording of this session so that you can pass it along or watch it again later if you miss some. We do have one question coming in. Where are your data centers?
So currently we have active data centers in New York and New Jersey and Phoenix.
So more, do you host servers or applications?
We will host servers and applications, and we'll sit down and talk to you about your needs, and we'll fit the need in. If you need on-premise equipment or you want to fully virtualize, we'll support that as well. And then, Jacob, were you going to say something, or you're just saying that you're all good, you didn't have any questions?
Yeah, just saying that I'm all good.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, and look out for recording. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
All right. Bye-bye.